The February air didn't feel like weather that night. It felt like judgment. I remember the porch light flickering above me, buzzing weakly as if even it didn't want to witness what was happening. My bare feet pressed into the frozen concrete, skin burning, then numbing. I was 15, wearing nothing but a thin tank top and pajama shorts, clothes that offered no defense against the kind of cold that could carve itself into bone. My name is Mara, and this is the night my parents decided I didn't deserve a home. My mother's hand trembled as she pointed toward the yard, but her voice didn't. Get out. You don't deserve to live under this roof after what you did. What I did. What he said I did. My brother stood behind her, arms folded, eyes shining with triumph. His breath came out in warm clouds. Mine came out as shivers. He didn't look at me, he looked through me the way someone looks through a stain they're trying to erase. He told us everything, my dad growled. Was. All of them. But truth never held power in that house, only the person who spoke first. And my brother had spoken fast, practiced, and convincingly. The golden boy always did. Dad, please? I stepped forward, but he shoved me back so hard my shoulder met the railing with a crack. The cold swallowed the pain before I could register it. Don't come back, he said. Not tonight. Not ever. The door slammed. The lock clicked. The porch light died. For a moment, the world fell silent except for the wind curling around my half-naked body, lifting goosebumps along my skin like tiny raised wounds. I wrapped my arms around myself, stepping into the darkness, not because I wanted to, but because I had nowhere left to stand. Years later I would learn how karma moves. Quietly. Patiently. Precisely. But that night all I learned was how to survive. The cold didn't just bite, it claimed. Each step down the porch felt like walking into a world that had no intention of holding me up. The February wind swept under my skin as if searching for something to take. I wrapped my arms tighter around myself, but the shivering only grew sharper, more frantic. Behind the door I heard voices, my parents, my brother, arguing, then laughing, then moving on. As if throwing me out half-naked into the freezing dark was nothing more than a household inconvenience. As if I had been a problem and now the problem was solved. I made it to the end of the driveway before my knees gave out. The snow wasn't deep, but it felt endless. I sank into it, its cold seeping through my thin shorts like a warning I was running out of time. My breath fogged the air in ragged bursts. My fingers tingled, then went numb. The world blurred around the edges. But somewhere underneath the misery something small and stubborn whispered, "Move." I forced myself onto my feet again, stumbling toward the only place I thought might help, the neighbor's porch light glowing faintly through the trees. They were quiet people, distant, but I had no one else. My vision flickered as I reached their steps. I lifted my hand to knock but managed only one tap before collapsing against the railing. The door opened gently. "Oh my God. Mara?" Mrs. Alden's voice broke through the haze. Her robe billowed in the wind as she crouched beside me, wrapping a blanket around my shoulders with trembling urgency. "Honey, what happened? You're freezing." I couldn't speak. My teeth chattered too violently for words. She didn't wait for answers. "Come inside, sweetheart. Right now." Warmth hit me like a wave the moment she pulled me in, a warmth that felt more like mercy than heat. And for the first time that night, someone looked at me and didn't see a lie. The warmth inside the Alden's house felt unreal, like I'd stepped into a memory instead of a room. Steam rose from the heater vents, carrying the faint scent of laundry detergent and cinnamon. My body reacted before my mind could, shaking violently, the cold releasing its grip only to leave pain behind. Mrs. Alden guided me to the couch, wrapping a thick quilt around me. "Don't try to talk yet," she whispered. "Your body's in shock." Mr. Alden appeared moments later, wide-eyed, already dialing emergency services. He glanced at me between words, confusion and anger tightening his jaw. "Half naked, in this weather? Yes, we'll wait." I curled into the blanket, letting heat crawl slowly back through my limbs. Pins and needles bloomed painfully across my fingers. My chest ached with each breath. Mrs. Alden knelt in front of me. "Mara, did your parents do this?" My eyes dropped to the floor. Shame burned deeper than the cold ever had. I didn't need to answer. My silence did. She exhaled shakily. "I knew something was wrong in that house. I knew it. I'm so sorry, sweetheart." Her voice cracked, and for a moment I wasn't the one breaking. Minutes later, flashing red lights filled the living room as paramedics hurried in. One of them, a woman with gentle eyes, touched my wrist lightly. "You're safe now," she murmured as she checked my pulse. Safe. A strange word. One I hadn't felt in years. As they prepared to move me, the front window glowed with new light, headlights pulling up fast. My stomach twisted. My parents' car. Mrs. Alden stiffened. "They heard the sirens," she said under her breath. "Stay close to me." My father stormed toward the door, my brother trailing behind, wide-eyed with false innocence. My mother looked frantic, but not with worry, with indignation. They hadn't come to help me. They'd come to control the story. The moment my father burst through the doorway, the temperature in the room dropped, not physically but in the way a space reacts to someone who has mastered intimidation. His eyes swept over the paramedics, over the Aldens, and finally over me, wrapped in a quilt I didn't belong in by his standards. "What is going on here?" he barked. "Why is she in your house?" His tone wasn't concern. It was possession. Mrs. Alden stepped forward before I could even steady my breath. "She came to us for help," she said firmly. "She was freezing outside, half naked. Your daughter could have died." My father scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. "She ran out on her own. Always dramatic. Always looking for attention." A chill slid through me. Not the cold, his words. So practiced. So effortlessly cruel. The paramedic with the gentle eyes straightened. "Sir, she's suffering from exposure. This wasn't a voluntary situation." My mother rushed in next, her face twisted with frantic energy. "We didn't mean," she misunderstood, "we just needed space to deal with what she did." What I did. The question slipped from me before I could stop it. My voice trembled, but it was there, finally there. My brother stepped forward, chin lifted. "You know what you did," he said, loud enough for the room but quiet enough to seem composed. "Lying about me again. Making things up. Mom and Dad were right to be angry." His lies were smooth, polished. Lies he'd rehearsed his whole life. Mr. Alden crossed his arms. "Son, no 15-year-old ends up half naked in a blizzard because of a family disagreement." My father's jaw clenched. "She's coming home with us. We'll handle this privately." The paramedic shook her head. "Not tonight. Her condition requires medical evaluation, and legally, we can't release her into a situation where she may not be safe." My father stepped toward me, fury simmering just beneath the surface. For the first time I didn't look away. And something in his face faltered. He wasn't losing control of the situation. He was losing control of me. The paramedics guided me toward the stretcher, their hands steady, their presence a quiet barrier between me and the people who had thrown me into the cold 2 hours earlier. My father moved to block them, but the older paramedic lifted a hand. "Sir, interfering with medical personnel is a chargeable offense." The room stilled. My father stepped back, but only barely, his restraint thin, trembling, held together by the realization that, for once, someone else held authority. I lay back slowly, the quilt still wrapped around me. Each inch I moved felt like a step away from the version of myself they'd sculpted. Obedient, small, apologetic. And yet, the woman in blue latex gloves adjusting my blanket didn't see someone small. She saw someone hurt. Someone worth protecting. My mother pressed a shaking hand to her mouth. "Mara, sweetheart, just come home. We'll talk, okay? You know we love you." Her voice cracked perfectly. Almost beautifully. I wondered how many times she'd used that tone to erase the truth. "Love doesn't leave someone in the snow," Mr. Alden muttered. My brother rolled his eyes. "She exaggerates everything. She's always..." "Enough." The paramedic's voice cut through him like a cold blade. "Whatever this is, it doesn't change the fact that she could have died tonight." My brother's mouth snapped shut, his confidence fracturing for the first time. As they rolled me toward the door, my father grabbed the stretcher rail. Not hard, but enough to show he still believed he had a claim on me. "Mara," he growled quietly, "don't make a scene. You know how this will look." I met his eyes, my voice low but steady. "How this looks isn't my problem anymore." Something flickered in him. Fear maybe. Or recognition. Because for the first time in my life I wasn't trying to get back into their house. I was leaving it. And I wasn't coming back. The hospital lights were softer than I expected. Dim, warm, almost kind. A nurse tucked heated blankets around me while a doctor checked my vitals, her brow tightening each time she noted something concerning. Frostbite along my toes. Severe hypothermia risk. Bruising on my shoulder from where my father had shoved me. Evidence. Real, documented evidence. For years, my family had rewritten every moment, every memory, every wound. But hospitals didn't record stories, they recorded facts. When the doctor stepped out, the nurse lingered. "We've contacted Child Protective Services," she said gently. "Standard procedure. You're safe here." Safe. That word again. Slowly sinking in. Later, as I sat propped up in a hospital bed, Sipping warm broth from a paper cup, I heard raised voices in the hallway. Familiar voices. My father's sharp anger. My mother's frantic pleading. My brother's smooth lies weaving themselves into excuses. A social worker entered before they could reach my door. She closed it behind her. Your parents want to see you, she said. But you don't have to speak to them tonight. Or at all. My choice felt foreign. I don't want to see them, I whispered. She nodded with quiet approval. Then you won't. Through the small window in the door, I saw my father arguing with hospital security demanding access. My mother crying loudly enough to draw attention. My brother standing off to the side, arms folded, expression cold and calculated. The social worker stepped into the hallway, speaking calmly but firmly to the staff. A moment later, security escorted my family out of view. They were losing control. And they knew it. When the door closed again, the room fell silent. A soft, peaceful kind of silence, the kind that doesn't demand anything from you. For the first time since childhood, I exhaled without fear. Karma wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It simply began. I was moved to a quieter room later that night, the kind reserved for long observation. The nurse dimmed the lights and handed me a cup of warm tea, her presence gentle but unwavering, like she understood more than I'd said. Maybe she did. Maybe people who work in places like this learn to read pain the way others read newspapers. My phone, retrieved from the Alden's house, buzzed nonstop on the bedside table. Messages from numbers I knew by heart. Dad, you're ruining our family. Mom, please stop this. Your brother is devastated. Brother, just tell them you overreacted. 3 voices, 1 script. I turned the phone off. Around midnight, the social worker returned with a folder of forms and a softened expression. Your case is being taken very seriously, she said. Your medical report, your neighbor's statement, everything aligns. I stared at the blanket over my lap, unsure what alignment meant for someone like me. She continued, until further notice you won't be returning home. We're arranging temporary placement and ongoing support. Not returning home. The words didn't sting. They settled, like truth taking its rightful place. Before she left, she paused. You're very brave, Mara. Most children don't speak up. I didn't speak, I whispered. They acted. She smiled gently. Bravery isn't always loud. When she was gone, I laid back against the pillows, exhaustion pulling at me from every direction. The machines hummed softly beside me, their rhythms steady, grounding. Outside the window, snow drifted under the streetlights, quiet, slow, cleansing. 4 years, my brother had been the sun in my parents' orbit, bright, untouchable, golden. And I had been the shadow cast by his shine. But shadows don't just disappear. Sometimes they shift. Sometimes they reveal what the light has been hiding. And something told me his shine wouldn't last much longer. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the hospital blinds, thin, pale, but warm enough to soften the edges of the night before. A detective arrived shortly after breakfast, his notepad already open, his tone measured. He asked gentle questions first, then harder ones. He didn't flinch at the details. He didn't doubt my answers. He didn't ask why I hadn't spoken sooner. He only asked, "Are you ready for things to change?" I surprised myself by saying, "Yes." By noon, the investigation was officially underway. The Alden's account, the paramedics' observations, my medical records. The pieces formed a picture my parents could no longer blur. The detective informed me that my family had been instructed not to contact me. Violating that order would result in immediate legal consequences. So they can't reach me anymore? I asked. He nodded. Not legally. It was strange how light that knowledge felt, as if someone had opened a window in a room I'd been suffocating in for years. Later, while drinking another cup of too-hot hospital tea, the social worker entered with cautious news. Your brother has been interviewed, she said. His story doesn't match your parents'. He contradicted himself, repeatedly. I felt the shift like a quiet domino falling. Golden boys didn't crumble loudly. They cracked softly, under the weight of their own lies. By evening, CPS informed me that I'd be placed with the Aldens temporarily. Mrs. Alden cried when she heard, pulling me into the kind of hug that didn't suffocate, it steadied. As I gathered my few belongings, I glanced once more at the hospital bed, the blankets, the monitors that had watched me breathe through the aftermath. My family had thrown me into the cold believing I would disappear. Instead, the world had stepped in, one witness, one signature, one truth at a time. Some people call it karma. I call it clarity.